Hello, good evening everyone. So now this is day 14 of daily answer writing program of history optional. Let's see what was the question of today. So today's question was discuss the main characteristics and cultural developments of the Paleolithic age in India. How did environmental factors influence the lifestyle and survival strategies of early human during this period? So now this question is basically about the Paleolithic culture, and it is also asking you that how come the environmental changes were changing the culture of the Paleolithic period, right? So how to frame this answer? So you have to start with a definition of the culture of the Paleolithic period, and you have to write this is the earliest stage of the human development where the transition in the human body and the environment simultaneously started, and both of them were interrelated. And of course, as per the environmental changes, like you can see certain changes which were coming to the to the body of human beings, and undoubtedly the cultural transformation which were happening. Then you have to discuss about basically the various archaeologists, those who had been working in India, and among them the most important one is undoubtedly the Robert Bruce Foote, who has been known as the father of Indian prehistory. Apart from that, you can quote H.D. Sakalia, V.D. Misra, K. Pedaya, Kenneth Kennedy, and then Olchen and Olchen. So by in the next paragraph or even in the introduction, you can write about all these important archaeologists, those who had studied the Indian Paleolithic. Then next you need to discuss about basically the chronology, and there you are going to discuss about the environmental changes. So in the chronology you will be saying ki as far as Paleolithic is concerned, this period itself has been divided into three parts, that's called as Lower Paleolithic, Middle Paleolithic and Upper Paleolithic. The Lower Paleolithic is considered, in Indian context it is considered from 1.38 million years ago to roughly around 7000 BC. And that can be further divided into the Lower Paleolithic. So the Lower Paleolithic from 1.38 million to 1 lakh, the Middle Paleolithic from 1 lakh from 1 lakh years ago to 40,000 years ago, and then from 40,000 BCE or 40,000 BP to 10,000 BP is considered to be the Upper Paleolithic. During this particular period, the environmental change was also happening, and there was basically a transition from Pleistocene to Holocene, or from the Ice Age to the normal climate, that was having greater impact over the development of the Paleolithic period and Paleolithic cultures also, or else we can say the culture of the Paleolithic people. After that, you need to discuss about the various settlements. So among the settlements, you will be discussing about the Soon Valley, that is in Pakistan, modern day Pakistan. Then you must talk about the Narmada Valley, then the certain regions in the Vindhya range, then the northeastern part of India, and then you will be also discussing about some of the South Indian centers or the South Indian sites which are there, which are falling in the Paleolithic period. You need to quote certain sites also. Next, you are going to discuss about basically the tool technology, and there again you will try to connect it with basically the environmental changes. So basically in the Paleolithic period there was a progressive tool technology that can be categorically noticed, and here a transition can be noticed from the direct percussion technique to pressure techniques. So in Lower Paleolithic there was direct percussion technique, in Middle Paleolithic there was indirect percussion technique, and then when it comes to the Upper Paleolithic it was the pressure technique which was applied. Of course, as per that, the tools were also changing. So in the Lower Paleolithic period, they had been using different kind of tools such as hand axe, cleaver, and all these kind of tools were there. But then gradually we can find the bigger flakes, and then finally smaller flakes were being used. So there is a transition from core to smaller flakes, that you are going to write. At the same time, we'll be writing about the various tools used by them, such as as I told you, hand axe, cleaver, chopper. From there, we can find that blades, burins, right, and then some microliths are being used. So that kind of transition can be discussed. At the same time, we'll be also discussing about the type of stone which were changing. So if we'll discuss about the Lower Paleolithic, at that point of time it was quartzite, basalt, limestone. These stones were being used. But the moment they move forward or they enter into Middle and the Lower Paleolithic period, and then you can find that they have started using The chert, jasper, agate, and all these kind of stones were being used. So that's how there is a changes, like there is a change that can be noticed here also. Then it comes to the next side, like next paragraph, where we'll be mentioning about the settlement. And in fact, in the settlement, we are going to discuss about the various kind of settlements they had, such as open air sites, then the cave sites, then temporary cave sites. These are being discussed by one of the scholars, that's called as V.N. Misra, and he's talking about how come, like the changes even in their settlement or in the houses what they had been constructing, or the places where they were like basically living or dwelling, that was also changing. So that kind of change was like change could be noted. At the same time, like some archaeologists have discussed about the strength of these communities, that used to be somewhere around like 10 to 25. So they used to be very small group, and on the basis of that, and another suggestion is there, which is known as the site catchment analysis. And the site catchment analysis simply says that they used to make a point or a cave as base, and then in a radius of 10 kilometers, like they used to exploit the resources. That's how it was going on. Apart from that, you can also discuss about some of the factory sites which were there. You can also talk about certain things regarding their society, that since it was a it could not be kept in a proper category of society, and that's how archaeologists have used a specific term that's called as band society. Why band society? Because they were together in order to fulfill their needs, specifically their hunt or their search for the food, because of what? They were working as a band society. At the end, you need to talk about basically the religious beliefs, and in the religious belief, precisely there are two things that you need to discuss, and that's about the mother goddess images which have been found at various sites, and the second thing you need to write about basically the Bagur which is there in Madhya Pradesh. So that gives a specific kind, that gives like basically a structure, reference of a structure, that structure which is a rubble built structure that is circular in nature, and at the top of this circular structure you can find a triangular stone has been kept, and mostly it is believed it might be having some sort of religious use. So that's how we'll be completing your answer, and then in the conclusion you'll be writing actually throughout this Paleolithic period immense amount of changes can be noticed. So from lower Paleolithic to middle Paleolithic, certain changes were there that included everything: tool type, tool technology, the stone that had been that they have been using, their settlements were getting changed, and that's how changes could be noticed. In the same way, their cultural changes were also there, their life ways were getting changes, like everything was depending on the environment. And this is how throughout this Paleolithic period continuous changes were there, and that somehow facilitates the coming of the Mesolithic phase in Indian history. And that's how the prehistoric the Paleolithic period remains very important for the human development or the evolution in India. That's how you are going to write this answer. Thank you very much.